All right, Jeff here again from Nichols Astrology. I am doing this playlist of videos for instructional purposes. I have been reading charts for free per practice. I am a student of evolutionary astrology. When I do read people's charts, they just don't understand the basics. So I just kind of want to do a series of instructional videos so I don't spend so much time explaining the basics in the video. If you do want to book a reading, go to www.nicholsastrology.com and you can book a reading there and come back and watch these videos, learn the basics so we can dig into the meat of your astrology and how these energies affect you personally. So this video, we're going to learn about the signs. This is something that we're all familiar about, and we're going to start with the first sign of the zodiac, even though it's way here over here in the sixth house. It's just how it affects me personally. This is my chart, and this is Aries. Aries is a fire sign, and it's a cardinal sign, which I'll get a little bit more about the elements and the modalities as we go in these instruction videos. But Aries is kind of a hot-headed, in-your-face energy. It's your own assertiveness and how you kind of express yourself to the world. It's kind of like you standing up for yourself and your values and not taking shit from other people, basically. It can be kind of aggressive and in your face and kind of an extroverted energy. So kind of like I have nothing there personally, but these planets that you see all around here, whatever you have there, it's kind of like how you express yourself assertively. Next, we're going to go to Taurus. Wow, that's a terrible circle. But Taurus is, there's always this blend of energies when you go from one sign to the next. But these are kind of drastically different energies. Taurus is a fixed earth sign. So it doesn't like to change. It kind of stubborn. It likes to stay the way it is. It's kind of can represent like soil, farming, agriculture, things like that, animals, nature. It's also kind of an expression of Venus, which I'll get into the rulers later. It can be about beauty, accepting beauty, creating beauty, especially like natural beauty. It's also about your personal resources and finances and kind of like day-to-day things that you need to exist, like food, water, shelter, love, intimacy, sex, and things like that. And it can also be very stubborn. It can also be very rigid and doesn't like to change, like a bull that you try to go corral into another field, but it wants to stay where it's at because it's this big, proud animal. Next is Gemini. Gemini is an air sign that is mutable. Again, I'll get into the elements and the modalities later. But Gemini is a duality sign because it is the house of twins. And you get to see my poor artistic skills here. Lucky you. So it is a duality sign. So it likes multiplicity. It likes variety. It likes change. Doesn't like doing one thing at a time. But it's how we express our intellect and it's how we express our communication style. It's both about listening and talking. It's very investigative. It's kind of an intellectual sign, and its ruler is Mercury over here. It could be about research and digging into things and talking to people, interviewing people, asking questions, explaining things. It could also be about media, kind of like this is a very Geminian thing. I have a lot of stuff in Gemini. I took a lot of it away just to kind of clear things up and start with the basics and start small and go big. But that is kind of the gist of Gemini there. Next, we're going to go into Cancer, which is really, really deep and really, really emotional, and it is associated with the moon. Cancer is a cardinal water sign. Again, go into that later. But it's your emotional state. It's kind of like what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel safe, and what makes you feel nurtured. It can kind of be reclusive and introverted by kind of default, like water and earth are introverted energies, but it's not that. You can't take it that cut and dry. You have to look at all the nuances that astrology is so good about showing us. But it's kind of like a crab where it goes in its shell, and if you get too close to it, it'll pinch you, and it doesn't want to expose itself to the world. So it can be very closed off and rigid because of just kind of how it starts, how it is. And I think I said it's a cardinal water sign. I might have said fixed, but it's cardinal. Next, we're going into Leo, which it kind of associated with being loud and gregarious and attention seeking, and it definitely can be, but it's not all about that. It's about self-expression and creativity, how you're supposed to show yourself to the world. So if you have Leo energy, you may not be this super outgoing person that's singing and dancing and performing on stage. You might just be sitting behind a laptop here in front of a camera explaining how astrology works. So it's kind of how you express yourself artistically and creatively. It could also be about romance and how you express kind of like affection and gregariousness, like being loud, attention seeking, how you want to be appreciated, how you want to be acknowledged, kind of what you want to be known for. Kind of like it is the king of the zodiac because it's represented by the lion, which is the king of the jungle, even though they're in savannas. So that's a misconception. And misconception about Leo because my son is technically in Leo, and we're supposed to be this loud, boisterous people that charm the pants of all the girls, but that's not the case for me, at least. But that's Leo. Next is Virgo. Virgo is kind of this one of the sticklers of the zodiac. Virgo's very analytical, it's very perfectionistic, it's very fickle. It kind of expects perfection out of everybody, but kind of the gist of Virgo with the good points of it, it's the house of service. It's basically like the skills that you need to learn to serve humanity, like to give yourself purpose and meaning, to be useful to other people. And it could also be about how you, it's also ruled by Mercury, which communication and intellect again. So it's very analytical, very intellectual. Well, it can be intellectual. Just kind of depends where it's at, what house, and what stuff's in it. But yeah, it can be real finicky and kind of hard to please and real nitpicky. Virgo is Earth sign and it is mutable, while Leo is a fixed fire sign. Libra, it is the cardinal air sign. So Libra is about justice, it's about balance, it's about fairness. It is an expression of Venus because that is what rules Libra. It could be about relationships, art, and beauty, and kind of appreciating beauty and creating beauty and being beautiful yourself in ways, or what you may find beautiful. It could also be about law, bureaucracy, and things like that. So it can be kind of a stickler as well. Kind of like, oh, you got to read all the paperwork, you got to read the fine print. It can kind of hold rules and hold grudges. It can be real kind of conceited and vain. It can be kind of manipulative. It can be kind of like, well, this is not how the law goes. You have to follow these rules because it's set arbitrarily by this group of people. And if you don't follow it, you're a criminal and you're an outcast. That's kind of the negative expression of Libra. Next is Scorpio, which is fixed water. It is associated with Pluto right here because that's the modern day ruler, at least. And it was traditionally ruled by Mars because, like I said, the ancients didn't know anything about Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. But anyways, Pluto is about transformation and death, literally and figuratively. It's about taking old, nasty habits. It's like they kind of see this as like the bad guy of the zodiac because it's represented by the scorpion. Like, I live in Arizona and there's scorpions everywhere. And I was 7 years old when I first got stung by a scorpion. It's kind of lying in a towel as I was getting out of the shower and went to go dry myself off. It stung me several times. So it's kind of like hiding in the shadows, waiting to strike. That's kind of the energy of it. But it's also about truth seeking and fairness, and it shines a light on what's dark and what's hidden. So it exposes things, good and bad. Again, it can take like traumatic events or bad habits or stuff that's bothering you, and you work through it and you can transform it into something new. It's represented by the scorpion, but it's also the phoenix. It burns, turns to ashes, and rises up from the ashes, and it's born again. But it can be very dark and deceitful and alluring. It could also be very kind of seductive. Like the sun sign astrology, they see it as sexy and seductive. But leave in the comments if you think I'm sexy and seductive because I got some Scorpio energy here. Next is Sagittarius, which is a mutable fire sign. Sagittarius is about education and higher learning, spirituality, religion, traveling over long distances, especially water. It can be about dogmatism, philosophy, idealism. It can just be about like seeing the big picture and going out and being adventurous and going on your own quest. But it could also be very closed off and rigid, like my way or the highway. This is the way I see things. I am so much better than you and so much smarter than you. You are stupid. My views are right. And your views are wrong. So it can be kind of weird and closed off and irrational in that sense. Next, we got Capricorn. Capricorn is cardinal earth energy. Capricorn is the sea goat. It's associated with the devil or Satan, so it's kind of one of the bad guys in the zodiac. It's kind of one of the negative signs, as the traditional astrologers would often say. And I'm sure not all traditional astrologers are kind of have these viewpoints, and maybe they are a little more open and a little more flexible. It seems that some are and some aren't. But in evolutionary astrology, Capricorn is hardworking, studious, industrious. It's very dependable and reliable and loyal, but it can be very cold. It can be very my way or the highway. Like, I'm the boss. I'm going to take all the credit. It's kind of like represents your career and your public image, and it can just kind of throw people under the bus for its own sake. Kind of like you're at work and boss makes himself look good and takes your idea and they take all the credit while you get nothing. It's kind of that energy. Next is Aquarius, which is cardinal fixed air. So Aquarius is about change, innovation, going against the grain, genius, as not necessarily as like I'm super smart and I score high in an IQ test and I know more things than you. It can be about other types of genius. Like, there's someone who can work on a car like really well, and they can do it with limited tools, and they can just make things out of nothing, like an engineering genius. It's about technology and innovation. It's about collaboration. It can be kind of a flighty sign. It likes to get together people and come up with ideas and brainstorm as a group, but it doesn't want to get too close to people. It kind of just wants to talk to people at arm's length. So it can be kind of cold and distant at the same time, but it does like kind of like idea farming from people, and kind of like iconoclastic and rebellious. And the last sign, the 12th sign, is Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it is water, and it is mutable. It is like Gemini, one of the duality signs. Like, this is the two twins. I'm not going to do that again, but these little fish here, kind of like Jesus wrote in the sand, and they're swimming in opposite directions. So there's kind of a lot of confusion. I guess I could keep those since I worked so hard on it. And it's kind of like the higher octave of Venus. So the traditional ruler was Jupiter, and the modern ruler is Neptune. So as I talked about Neptune, this can be about your higher spiritual, emotional energy that you need to find a way to express. And if you don't express it, it can turn to nasty, dark habits of escapism, like dealing with drugs, sex, alcohol, gambling, porn, prostitution, like dangerous, risky sex, things like that. It can find art and beauty, and it's very collaborative and kind of like peace seeking and peace loving, and it kind of just wants everybody to get along. Real hippie energy here. But if you don't kind of manage this energy, it can turn to something like, oh, I just watch Netflix and drink beer all day because I want to ignore my emotional pain that I'm not working through and expressing in a creative, artistic, and beautiful way. Okay, well, that is it for this segment. This is the 12 signs. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe. This is informational and educational to you. If you did get a birth chart reading and you're going through this, I hope you're getting some clarification. Also, if you do want a birth chart reading with me, my website should be up by now, nicholsastrology.com. You could book a birth chart reading with me. At this time, I'm only doing birth charts. I am a student of evolutionary astrology, like I said, so I am working on transits, synastry, and composites, relationship astrology. So stay tuned for that in the future. Thank you for watching.